What's the most NSFW moment that you witness in a classroom? Well, one girl I know had the bright idea to write the answers to a test on her nether regions. During the test she would lift her yoga pants up and look at her V. I sat near her so I had a great view. She was pretty hot too. Well, during the test my teacher saw me staring and said, "Hey, what are you looking at, Max?" I totally froze. He saw the yoga pants snap back and thought she was showing me her pussy. Immediately, she admitted to cheating rather than have people think she was showing me her V, Not really NSFW, but our high school used to invite the local policing to do anti-drunk driving sessions every year. One part of the lecture involved a slideshow of all the deaths caused by drinking and driving, full on blood, decapitations, sinewy goodness, etc. Which was gory but fine until I realized that one of the bodies on the screen was the brother of the girl sitting next to me and the look on her face. My morbidly obese French teacher going into detail about how her and her morbidly obese husband were trying to get pregnant. And this was common subject that she would bring up in class until one day this kid John says, "You ever think that maybe because you're both beached whales that's why you can't get pregnant? Can he even find his D?" She burst into tears and left the class and we had a supply the rest of the week. Guy got expelled for finger banging a girl under the tables during health class. There was a kid in 8th grade that was about 3 years behind. Mainly because he was constantly in trouble and being expelled. Couldn't keep his mouth shut. Loved to fight. Hated the preppy kids. Always chewed tobacco in class and spit in a Coke bottle he kept in his book bag. One day a girl sitting in front of him noticed him spitting in the bottle and told him he was ducking disgusting white trash. We waited for the inevitable explosion but he just put his head on his desk and was quiet. Class continued and we figured it was over. The teacher is talking and we're all taking notes when he suddenly stands up, D out, blows his wad in the girl's hair and yells, "Now that's ducking disgusting." I was in 9th grade health class. Our teacher had left the room for whatever reason, and he had been gone for a while. So we were all pretty much talking amongst ourselves, when one of the guys in my class very loudly accused this girl of stuffing her bra. This girl was rocking D's in like 9th grade. She denied it, of course. Well, he kept giving her it about it, and she was like, "Fine, I'll prove it." Flashes tits, yep. She definitely didn't stuff her bra. That stayed in my spank bank for a while as a young teenager. One time back in 8th grade I got bored in social studies because my teacher was this massive old man with a limp who couldn't hear and tried too hard to play the D who yells a lot but is secretly a nice guy card. Anyway, went to the bathroom to play GTA. Chinatown Wars on my phone and immediately knew something was ducky as there were clothes strewn everywhere. I apprehensively walked to the nearest open stall because I really didn't want to go back to class. And what I saw will haunt me forever. An autistic kid who was known to be violent, bit people, punched teachers, threw books, was standing on the toilet, completely naked and skirting all while screaming like a Tusken Raider. I noped the duck out of there and as I was walking back to my classroom, stricken and changed forever, I saw 3 teachers run by me and straight into the bathroom. Whoa, wasn't expecting this many upvotes. People who keep saying I would have heard the shrieks should have made it more clear that he started screaming when we locked eyes. It's a 1-stall 1-urinal bathroom. In 10th or 11th grade, one of my buddies was looking for something to read and picked out a random book from the teacher's bookshelf. He opened the book and noticed that it already had a bookmark in it. So, given that no one else was reading the book, my buddy took out the bookmark. The bookmark was a photo of the teacher, only 10-15 years younger, along with 2 of her friends, and all 3 of them were flashing their bare boobies to the camera. So what did my friend do? Obviously he shoved the photo in his pocket, asked to go to the bathroom, and sent a phone pic to everyone he knew. So essentially, the whole school saw the English teacher's boobs in the same day. This kid jerked off in class and was apparently notorious for it. Sadly I didn't know it was my friend at the time and now I can never look at him the same. 11th grade, career discovery class. We had tables instead of desks so we always shared a table with another person. The tables were arranged so that one half of the class was staring at the other half and the teacher would walk down the middle. I kept staring at a guy named David in class because he was acting weird and kept putting his head up and down on the table, and it was just one of those things where you can't really stop staring at a person till you can find out what he's doing. He was sharing a blanket with a girl in class. We were watching a movie so the lights were off. Turns out he was fingering the girl next to him while getting a hand job. During a school play, one girl had to go behind a partition and change clothes, but on stage because it was part of the scene. Anyway, she stepped back too far and everyone in at a particular angle got to see her get changed pretty clearly. We also had a rule that boys have to wear loose fitting shorts for gym. One guy didn't wear underwear and had loose fitting shorts. We sat on the floor for 10 minutes before each class and he'd sit behind the girls he liked, basically opening his legs and showing them his D. They complained to him. He simply said, "You don't like it? Don't look at it." I decided it would be funny to touch my friend's tit. Turned out she was into it and let me feel her nipple. Playfully though. It was 8th grade. I guess that's pretty crazy. I only witnessed some of these things, but the rest are worth telling. The year before I started high school, the drama teacher was having sex with students on a mattress in the storage room. I'm the one who ended up throwing the mattress out. We had a basketball coach set up a camera in his office and then get girls to change in there. Girl giving blowjobs under the desks in computer class. Sex in the dressing room in the theater. It happened more often than you might realize. Speaking of theater, we had this creeper who would always sign up for stage crew and then try to watch people get dressed to the point that the girls would ask me to stand guard. On the plus side, they didn't mind if I saw them getting dressed. As in, they would tell me to turn around when I had my back to them so we could talk. Exciting times. We had a guy throw acid on his friend's leg as a joke. We were looking at victims of mustard gas in 8th grade social studies, and this kid whips out his D under the table and starts furiously masturbating while staring intently at the picture on the projector screen. In German class in high school, it was German 4. So there were about 8 of us and we were seniors. The teacher decided to play the German film The Bader-Meinhof Complex. Those of you that have seen the movie know this is gonna get weird fast. She didn't watch the movie beforehand, so she went in just as blind as us. The opening scene, or close to, it was 7 years ago, is set on a nude beach. So right away there are man and lady bits projected in the front of the class. To make it worse, 2 full frontal nude children run on screen to their mother before our teacher could turn it off. I've never seen a more hilarious way to almost ruin your career. TLDR. Teacher shows naked kids to high school seniors. My physics teacher talked to us at length about analytics one time. It started with the immortal line, "Back in my day, butts used to just be for pooping. Now they are for entertainment purposes." 2. He also whistled at attractive female students. Blew up tons of stuff, mostly with sodium. Talked about his escapades in Thailand while dodging the draft in the 60s. And swore like a sailor. Great man. Not at NSFW. During one of our school gym class lessons we went to the pool, which faced both changing rooms. Anyway, it was towards the end and most of the girls had gone to change. Lucky me was in clear view of the girls' changing room door, and lo and behold one of the girls starts undressing just there. I was 13 at the time. Definitely a memorable moment. All year in 4th grade, our teacher brought in a student that had Tourette's syndrome. Now, I swear to God I'm not special ed, just a regular classroom. At first he wouldn't swear. He'd just go meep meep meep. It was honestly really distracting. Well, about a month into the school year, the kid comes in going, "Duck it horse slut, duck you teacher meep 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 duck you hes sluts horsich cocksuckers ducks meep." We're all like, what the duck? And the teacher addresses all the students. There has been a development in Tourette's syndrome guy. He now swears or something along that. No it lady. He's cussing out everyone. I swear to God it was this kid Jesse in our class who taught him to swear. Anyways, halfway through the school year the kid told me he can control his cussing somewhat and he sometimes just likes to cuss out the teachers and not get in trouble for it. That whole year is why I should have never got in trouble for class for swearing. I literally sat a few seats away from a kid that just sweared and meeped. I felt bad for the guy. He was my friend, but it was quite hilarious when he'd swear at the teacher. I hated her so much. I went to an all-girls Catholic school, not Catholic myself. The school was about 100 years old at the time, and there had been a lot of nuns at the school who had died, which we did learn about. One girl though called everyone up to one of the classrooms to do a scene, including me. She ended up acting out being possessed, and who knows, maybe she was, and she said her name was Sister Louise and started doing that possessed writing thing where whatever is possessing you makes you write. Well, she didn't write anything that made sense. Then all the religious teachers ran up to that classroom and started trying to exorcise her. At the time it was freaky, but pretty sure she was acting. 2nd grade. Got to touch a girl sitting next to me in class while she did the same to me. Not sure how that happened. 5th grade. Another case of a girl with her hands down my pants, just sort of checking things out in the middle of class. I later learned that she eventually did this to nearly every boy in the class. She wanted to know who had the biggest D. 8th grade. Kissed my then girlfriend in class. 10th grade. Caught some girl flashing her tits in class to another girl. I actually just ran into her a few weeks ago. She joked about it. 11th grade. Remember 5th grade girl? I have another class with her. She's just gotten a tattoo on her V, or right above it, and decided to show it off when the teacher walked out of class. She was later elected student council president, but had to resign when she got caught ducking in the parking lot. Also 11th grade. Got my first BJ in the school bathroom. Pretty nice. May or may not have been from a dude. 12th grade. Had sex with a girl in the theater club's green room. Was also pretty nice. Every high school has one of these girls, that right combination of psycho, just a dash of slutty, and a heavy spoonful of don't give a duck. Of course, vastly out of my league, but onwards. One day, in the middle of a world history class, 10th grade, she just starts rifling through her purse looking for something. The teacher coach was talking coach it in the door, facing outwards. She just starts setting it on her desk, and I'm one desk back and to the left of her, so I got a great view of it all. Wadded up pair of panties, a handful of nail polish bottles, cell phone, a razor flip, mind you, brand new at the time, pocket flask, phone charger, brass knuckles, and I suppose to really set it all into perspective, a small pink vibrator. She crammed it all back in pretty quick, but I wasn't the only one who saw. That's one of the 3 days I'll look back on fondly out of my entire public educational experience. Well, there was this autistic, I'm guessing, kid in my 5th grade class. I'm not quite sure if he was gay, sexually confused, or just didn't quite comprehend what he was doing. But he decided to whip his D out and start helicopter D'ing while he seemed to be staring straight into my soul. I just kind of sat there. I mean, at 10 years old you don't really know what to do there. After what seemed to be an hour, but was probably only about a minute, he put it away. I think that's the day I realized I was definitely straight, at least. I got set on fire during our geography class. Professor talking about something that's now obsolete. You won't see that anymore. It's gone like the dildo bird. Contemplative silence. Raise hand. The what bird? The dildo bird. Isn't that what it's called? TL. DR. Professors be lonely. One time this guy came to woodwork class without his goggles. Witnessed myself fingering a girl to orgasm. Maybe 45 people present in class total. My chemistry teacher kept a beaker of mercury on his desk with a lead ball floating in it to demonstrate density. One day we had a substitute who let the kids get too crazy and they knocked the beaker off the desk. It promptly shattered and mercury went everywhere. She thought it was reasonable to scoop up the lead ball, shards of glass, and mercury with some notebook paper. My teacher kind of made me touch her tit. Totally on purpose. I guess I'd have to problem reading this at work though. I ducked my girlfriend in a school closet. 10/10 would do again. Was not a classroom but on a bus going to Disneyland for a band trip. On the way back home I woke up to take a piss and I see the two morbidly obese girl in the back of the bus eating each other out. I never got to pee. In a college anatomy physiology lab, we were studying the female reproductive system. The professor was very hands-on, so a majority of the labs included cadavers. This professor also liked to mess around. During the female reproductive system lab, it became known that one girl couldn't handle the cadavers and had decided to switch her major. Bad decision. As soon as the professor caught wind of this, he made her carry out the lecture, having her physically point out and interact with all the intricacies of a 100-year-old dead woman's preserved sexual organs. Much uncomfortable fun was had at her expense. 2 kids got suspended after having gay sex in the locker room during a chapel session. 2 incidents. In college I had a class where the teacher liked to walk down the middle of the class, so there was an aisle down the middle while one set of rows faces the others. There was a girl who must have been behind on her laundry and was wearing those short runner-like shorts with no underwear. She was slouching and you could basically see everything just short of asshole. I basically got nothing out of class that day. I spent the whole time trying to look away and keep telling myself to not look. The other one was in HS, where we had a long running teacher. No idea if they did tenure in HS, but this guy taught our school's dean at the same school. He had some crazy stories. He worked on Nixon's campaign, and his class was crazy difficult. 40-page papers in HS. One day a girl had a coughing fit and this guy said, "You alright there, Shelley?" "I'm fine. Just got a bit of a cold." "Is it a cold or have you been deep throating too much?" Class went silent except for a little chuckle from the teacher. This may not completely fit what you're looking for, but during one of my German classes in high school, one of the guys I was friends with at the time packed, lit, and fully smoked a giant bowl in the front row of the classroom. All the teacher said was, "It smells like something's burning." That's weird. In resistant materials, one time some guys were D-ing around, and one of them got his balls stuck in a G-clamp. He then decided he had to jerk off to make sure everything was still working. This is going to get buried now, but there were a load of chodes in my comprehensive school. A lot of gross kids doing gross things in a gross school. There was one guy who would just start wanking in class. Not discreetly either. He thought he was impressing the girls. One time he was doing it and convinced this pig of a girl to suck it in the middle of French class. She went to town and then wrenched back, gagging. Apparently his D was thick with knob cheese and the stink had pretty much made her sick. So that was fun. There are loads more stories, but I'm on my phone and can't be asked to type it out. After 5:30 morning practice during cross-country season, our male manager, who did not do the workouts, would shower with us and would without fail get a boner. Because we were a boys team, we showered in a communal space instead of private stalls, so everyone could see that he was turgid. He acted like nothing was out of the ordinary and no one ever really approached him, although it made us pretty uncomfortable. 6th grade, PE class alongside the 8th graders who were scandalous to say the least. They enjoyed giving 6-7 jackets to the fattest kid in their class and then proceed to beat him up. The ducker enjoyed it too. That's literally what they did the entire winter. So, 2 of the 8th graders bring one of their girl classmates in the male locker room and she starts stripping, and she didn't mind that the 6th graders were there as well. In a few minutes she only had the bra and panties. And unfortunately, we decided to not get in trouble and got the duck out of there, although one of my friends stayed. He later said that she got completely naked and proceeded to jack one guy off, but I'm not sure whether it's completely true. Still, it was a big thing for someone in the 6th grade to witness this. Peculiar fact, my school was considered to be elite, but that exact 8th grade class was full of rejects. 10th grade, different school. A friend of mine, footballer, dumb as a brick, sits next to the shyest girl in the class and is bored as duck. I'm 1 meter away from him when he just tells me to watch this. He then whips out his D for her to see, and she just froze for a few seconds. Then she let out a silent squeak and just stayed silent for the rest of the class. He did the same thing a couple of times after that, even to me. Lol. Great dude overall, but CD again 10/10. Peculiar fact, still a great school. If you were smart, you got all the attention of the teachers and became even smarter. No one cares if you were dumb and acted like an idiot all the time. This kid in my freshman English class randomly screamed out, "I just came." Side note, the teacher was pretty hot. The teacher then responds, "First of all, that's extremely inappropriate. Second, if you did, you should probably leave my classroom right now." He proceeded to leave the classroom. Didn't see him for a couple weeks. Went to the bathroom during engineering and sophomore year. Needed to take a dump. And noticed there was a person in the stall next to me. About a minute into it, he threw a piece of toilet paper into my stall. I thought it was an accident. He then proceeded to throw a piece of it into my stall. I shrieked a bit and ran the duck out of there. On a lesser note, some kid jacking off in math class to porn on his phone. During one of my classes in university, we all heard this loud thudding banging noise coming from the hallway behind the classroom. Everyone stopped for a minute to try and figure out what had happened. A little while later, a paramedic team came through our room with a stretcher. No patient. They never came back through. But I'm guessing someone was seriously hurt. Second story. Because it's way better. The guy sitting next to me in 7th grade math pulled his D out and just let it sit there. Like not touching it at all. Just trying to show it off. It was weird and awkward. History of art and music class freshman year of high school. This guy sitting in front of me opens up the back of his mechanical pencil and pours out a tiny line of sugar and briskly sniffs it up before the teacher notices. Before you ask how he got it, my school is pretty much surrounded with shady neighborhoods. I had a teacher who always kept an apple in her desk. She'd eat it as she came in from first break. One of the students, the naughty kid, decided to wipe the apple all over his balls one day because he was given detention for fooling around in our first lesson, PE. We watched the teacher munch through the apple. It was disgusting. My teacher taught us evolution in a Bible Belt state. My Psych 101 teacher opened her laptop to pull up her PowerPoint and a rough BJ porn started playing. It was pretty hilarious, but I felt really bad for her. There was a kid in my high school who would go around and take a dump in various locations around the school. It was a big mystery as to who it was, and the kid was known as the Mad Pooper. It wasn't until a teacher ended up putting her feet on top of some of his work under her desk. He provided us with some great laughs. Not all heroes wear capes. There was this really odd kid I knew that sat away from everyone and didn't really have much friends. Personally, I didn't mind him, though he wasn't liked by anyone and he was a tad gross sometimes. Anyway, 8th grade math class. This guy is sitting in his usual spot in the far back, a row of desks away from everyone else, quietly giggling. I noticed it immediately. I wasn't sure why someone would be giggling alone while learning polynomials, so I thought it was weird. Then he let out a very audible moan and ran out of class with his pants down, clutching his third leg on the way out. As I'm sure you've figured out, he was yanking his chain. The teacher let us out for lunch early that day. I never saw that kid again until midway through grade 10. I saw a small boy stab another with a pencil he had just sharpened, right into the poor boy's hand. I didn't witness this, but it was in my high school. This one kid was talking to this girl in class. I'm pretty sure it was a lower level math class, so the teacher probably stopped caring at that point. But from what I heard, the girl told the guy that he had a small D. This did not sit too well with that kid. He got up, went to the front of the class, dropped his pants and whipped his D out and says, "Does this look like a tiny D to you?" He got suspended for a week.